everyone. Today we will be studying the fundamental unit of life, the cell. So in previous class we read about the cell. We visualized that cell is itself an entire ocean and the nucleus is the island, right? So today we will be studying about cell, from where did cell actually arise from, who found it, who were the discoverers, who were the scientists who found it, and other compartments of the cell. So this is all we're going to study about. So basically, have you ever wondered that what is cell? Cell, it is a structural and functional unit of life. I repeat, structural and functional unit of life. Now what do you mean by this? You mean that cell, it is the smallest unit that performs all the functions by itself and it's independent. This is the meaning of cell. And that is functional and structural, meaning functional, it does all the work by itself, meaning it is independent, and structural, meaning it is the smallest unit that does this work. That is the definition of cell. Now, there are many types of cell. Have you ever wondered, for example, we'll take of unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. How are they actually made? So, unicellular organisms, uni means one, right? Unicellular organism means one organism which performs all the work by itself, meaning it is independent. An example of this unicellular organism will be bacteria, amoeba, and paramecium. There's a mnemonic for this called BAP, bacteria, amoeba, and paramecium. Right? Now moving on to multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms means, multi means many. So many organisms together, many cells together. This is the meaning of multicellular organisms. For example, humans, cows, or plants and animals. Right? Now we will study about the different shapes and sizes of the cell. Right? We all know that cell varies in shape, size, and even color, right? So different types of cells will first look into inside human. Okay, inside human, first we will look into the human body. Okay, the longest and branched cell in a human body is a nerve cell. Okay, it looks like something like this. Yeah, so it is branched everywhere and it is the longest. So the branched and longest cell is the nerve cell. Okay, and the smallest cell inside a human body is the sperm cell. It looks like something like that. Okay, that is the sperm cell. Now what is the largest cell, largest or biggest cell, but not in human body? In an animal, okay, it is the ostrich. It is an egg of an ostrich, right? So without the shell of the egg, it is the egg of an ostrich, which is the largest and biggest cell. Now, apart from humans and animals, the smallest cell is the mycoplasm. Mycoplasm ka size is 0.3 micrometer, and mycoplasma ka example is PPLO, which is full form is pleuropneumonia-like organism, and its size is 0.1 micrometer. Okay, so now what we conclude that cell, it varies in different shapes and size. So what we find, the cell which we find in our bloodstream is RBCs. Okay, the shape of RBC, it is a biconcave. Biconcave means it is empty up and it is empty down, and it forms a half C shape like this. It forms half C shape like this. Now we will now study that who actually discovered cell. So basically what happens is there are many scientists who gave their theories on cell, who found cell, who studied about cell. But there are few people's names, few scientists' name that you have to remember. First person is our Robert Brown. What did Robert Brown do? Robert Brown, he was the first scientist to find the dead cell. Now how did he find the dead cell? So basically what happened is, you guys know a bottle? Okay, it's like this, and it is a glass bottle, and then there's a cork here. This thing, it is the cork. Okay, it is made up of a cork oak tree. Okay, this cork, it is made up of a tree, which is called, the tree name is cork oak tree, and it is made by the bark of that tree. Right. So basically, what did Robert Hooke did? He cut this cork oak tree, he put it into a magnifier, into a microscope, and he zoomed it. When he zoomed it, what he saw? he saw little small compartments. He saw small little rooms that were empty. He called these empty small little rooms as cells, meaning empty little rooms or compartments. So this was the first time when Robert Hooke discovered the dead cell. Apparently, these cells were dead. Now, why? Because cork does not have any living cell, right? It does not perform its own functions like eating food or drinking or osmosis or diffusion or respiration. It doesn't do all these stuff, right? So he found the dead cell in the year 1665. Robert Hooke was the first scientist to discover dead cell in a cork, which is in the year 1665. Now, moving on to Anton von Leeuwenhoek. He is a scientist who found the first living cell, right? He's a scientist who found the first living cell. Now, how did he find it? So, Anton von Leeuwenhoek, he's a scientist, right? He used to live in his house, okay? Near his house, there was a small pond, okay? He suddenly just glanced at the small pond and he observed something like slightly moving, okay? So, when he took that pond water, he put it into his microscope, electron microscope, and then he magnified. When he magnified it, he saw cells that were moving, that were living cells. So Anton von Leeuwenhoek is the first person who found the first living cell in the year 1674. Now, moving on, the third scientist who found a nucleus of the cell, that is Robert Brown. Now, don't get confused between Robert Hooke and Robert Brown, right? So, Robert Hooke was the first person who discovered dead cells, but Robert Brown is the person who discovered the nucleus of the cell. Okay, he found the nucleus of the cell in the year 1831. Now, have you guys ever seen a like protoplasm? Okay, now Purkinje is a fourth scientist who found the protoplasm of the cell. So basically, protoplasm it contains cytoplasm. It is a cytoplasm. It is a type of protoplasm. You can tell. So protoplasm was found by Purkinje. Okay, Purkinje is a scientist. Now, have you ever wondered about cell theory? Now there are two scientists coming here, Matthias Kelden and Theodor Schwann. So these two scientists, they formulated the cell theory. This said that all plants and all animals, they are all made up of cells. Okay, these two scientists, they concluded that all plants and all animals, they are made up of cells. So this was our cell theory. So Matthias Skeldin, he told this in the year 1838, and Theodor Schwann told this in the year 1839. Okay, so these two scientists, they told that all the plants and animals, they're made up of cells. But where did cell actually arise from? The question arises. So there was one more person, one more scientist. His name is Rudolf Virchow. So what he did, he modified the cell theory. He formulated and modified the cell theory and told that cells, they arise from pre-existing cells. I repeat, cell arise from pre-existing cells. Meaning, he gave a term to this called as omnis cellula e cellula. That means cells, they arise from the pre-existing cells. Like there's a cell, it divides into two daughter cells like that. So these cells, they rise into new cells. So this was about our cell theory and everything. Now we will study the compartments of the cell. So the first compartment is our cell wall. Okay. Now what is cell wall? Now I'll give you a story. Okay. Visualize it this way and remember all the compartments of this. So imagine a school. Okay. The school ka wall, it is our cell wall. Okay. And the school gate is our plasma membrane. Right. The school wall, it is our cell wall. So what is cell wall? It is hard, of course. It provides turgidity and rigidity to the cell, and it provides structure to the cell, right? And it is made up of, and it is dead. It is made up of dead cells, and it is dead itself, right? So cell wall, it is dead, it is hard, and it provides turgidity and rigidity to the cell. So this was all about cell wall. But one more thing, that cell wall, what is it made up of? Cell wall, it mainly contains cellulose. It mainly contains cellulose. What is cellulose? Cellulose, it is made up of three things: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. It is made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The long chains of these three things make our cellulose, and our cell wall, it is mainly composed of cellulose. Right. Now, moving on to our second part, which is our plasma membrane or cell membrane. Okay. Now, what is plasma membrane? You can imagine plasma membrane as the gate of the school. Okay, the gate of the school is our plasma membrane. Now, what is the role of the gate? It only allows the students, the teachers, or the staff people, or the parents of the students, right? So, our gate, that school gate, allows only these four people, right? It only allows few people, only selected people. It does not allow any stranger to get inside, right? That is the same work of plasma membrane. Plasma membrane, it does the same thing. Okay, so what happens is plasma membrane, it only allows oxygen or carbon dioxide or water inside it, and other minerals for food and water. Okay, it only allows these few things to get inside the cell. So can we tell that plasma membrane is a selectively permeable membrane? Yes, because it only allows few things to get inside, right? Now, what is plasma membrane actually made up of? So plasma membrane, it is actually made up of proteins and lipids, the structure of long chain of proteins and lipids. It is like this. It is made up of long chain of this. So this is our proteins and this is our lipids. Okay, so it is made up of long chains, which is proteins and lipids. Okay, there's a type of lipid here which is used to make this chain. That type of lipid, it is called as phospholipid. That is the type of lipid which is used here. It is made up of phospholipid. Okay, now plasma membrane, the main work of plasma membrane is to allow few things inside and not everything to get inside the cell, right? So plasma membrane, it does two types of transportation: passive transport and active transport. Okay, what is the role of passive transport here? So what is passive transport? Passive transport, it is again of two types. It is a part of osmosis and diffusion. Okay, so what is osmosis and what is diffusion? Now, diffusion means there's a cell, okay? Now, something wants to get inside the cell. For example, we'll take O2. We'll take O2. Okay, it wants to get inside the cell. Okay, it moves from higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay, so what happens is this O2, it will try to get inside the plasma membrane to go inside the cell, right? So this is called as diffusion. Okay, now how does diffusion work? It moves from higher concentration to lower concentration. High to low. Okay, so passive transport, it moves from high to low, and it transports water and diffusion of gases and everything. So for example, we'll take three cells. Okay, we'll take three plant cells. So we'll take three cells here. So what is in the first cell, we'll see that the cell, it is surrounded, the outer boundary of the cell, the medium outside of the cell, it is filled with water. The concentration of water is more. Okay, so meaning the water is dilute. If more amount of water means the water is dilute, right? But compared to the water inside the cell, so the water inside the cell is less compared to the outside. Okay, so what happens is the plasma membrane, it does both the ways, like it moves the water inside from outside and outside from inside, right? So what happened is when the water is more outside, it comes inside. So the water is coming inside. When the water is coming inside, the cell will absorb more water. When it is absorbing more water, it will become swollen. It will swell. Okay, so when it swells, it will become like a bulgy kind of thing. Okay, it will give its like a bulgy structure. But you might be wondering that why did the cell not burst? Because it is keep on taking water, right? Now, why did the cell did not burst? The cell did burst because it has cell wall. Back to the topic one, it has cell wall, which gives turgidity and rigidity to the cell. It protects the cell from bursting or anything. So the cell, it exerts an equal pressure to cell wall, and cell wall also exerts an equal pressure to the cell, which prevents it from bursting, right? Now, moving on to this solution, it is called as hypotonic solution. Okay, and this will take the second cell. Okay, the second cell. Now the in this cell, the amount of water outside is same, but the water amount inside the cell is also same. So the amount of water from inside to outside will go, and from outside to inside it will come. So this process will be keep on happening, but the water will be same on both the sides. If one drop comes, one drop it will go out. Okay, it's like that. So this both the water concentration, it will be same outside and inside. This type of cell, it is called as isotonic solution. Now we'll go to the third cell. The third cell, what is happening in the third cell? Now third cell, first the amount of water outside is less, meaning it is concentrated. Okay, but the amount of water inside is, it's normal. Okay, so what happens when it's concentrated? The water will go outside. When the water is going outside, the cell will shrink because it's not taking any water inside, right? So when it shrinks, only the protoplasm of the cell will shrink. Okay, I mean the entire cell will not shrink, only the cell wall won't shrink, only the protoplasm will shrink here. Okay, when it will shrink, that type of solution where the water outside it is concentrated and inside it is normal, that type of solution, it is called as hypertonic solution. Hypertonic solution, right? Now this is all about passive transport. Now we'll move on to active transport. What happens in active transport? Active transport, it is again divided into two. It is divided into two: endocytosis and exocytosis. Now, what do you mean by this? So, active transport, it basically transports the Na plus ions and K plus ions inside the cell and outside the cell. Now, what is happening? Endocytosis, matlab inside, and exocytosis means out. So, for example, we'll take the example of amoeba. Okay. So, when the amoeba, it is going to take the food inside it. It will engulf the food. First, it will make a curve shape around it and it will engulf the food. So, this it is called as endocytosis, meaning taking the food inside the cell. So, when the amoeba, it is engulfing this food, it is endocytosis. Okay, meaning it is taking the food inside. Now, after the amoeba eats its food, it will excrete, right? When it's excreting, it is exocytosis. It will excrete its waste outside the cell. That is called as exocytosis, meaning out. This is all about active transport and passive transport. Now, we will move on to the cytoplasm, right? Now, what is cytoplasm? Cytoplasm, as I told, is a jelly-like structure which keeps the all these cell organelles of the cell in its position. It keeps it together, right? That is the work of cytoplasm, and it is a jelly-like structure. Okay. Now we will move on to the nucleus. Now, nucleus is the main person here. He's the main owner. See, as we imagined, the entire island is the nucleus, right? And in that island, there's a person staying. That person is DNA. Okay, it is a DNA or the gene. Okay, so that inside that island, there's a person. That person is our nucleus. The entire island is the nucleus. So that nucleus, it contains a chromosome. It contains DNA. DNA का full form is deoxyribonucleic acid. I repeat, deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, so it contains chromatin. It contains DNA. Okay, it contains DNA, and this DNA, it is made up of threads, which is called as chromatin threads. Okay, and this DNA has a particular segment in its place. Okay, this is our DNA. Our gene will be present here. Now, what does this gene do? Gene, it is a segment inside the DNA, inside the chromatin threads. Okay, these two are the chromatin threads, and this is the gene. Okay, our gene is present there. The gene contains the genetic information of the person, like the person's eye color, hair color, the skin tone, and everything. It contains everything. Okay, the gene, it contains the genetic information of the person. So nucleus, now this is our nucleus. Okay, so the nucleus, it is surrounded by a membrane. That membrane, it is called as nuclear membrane. Okay, the nucleus, it is surrounded by a membrane. It contains which is the nuclear membrane. Now inside the nucleus there is a DNA. The nucleus, inside the nucleus, it is the DNA. So what does this DNA do? This is our DNA. This DNA, it is made up of threads called as chromatin threads, right? As we studied it contains chromatin threads. Okay, and this chromatin thread, that is it contains a segment, that segment, it is called as gene, right? This segment, it is called as gene. That gene, it contains the person's genetic information, right? So how the person looks, its eye color, its hair color, and everything. So that is our gene, and that is the chromatin threads. And that was all about our nucleus and our entire cell compartments and whatever we studied about cell and the history of our cell, right? So this was it for today's class, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you like visualized this in a better way than I could explain. So as we just take a quick revision, okay, just take a glance at it again. So the school was our cell. Okay, the school wall is our cell wall. The gate is our plasma membrane. Our plasma membrane, it only lets few people to get inside and few people to get outside. So this way you can imagine our cell wall and cell and plasma membrane. Okay, this was it for today. I hope you enjoyed the class. I hope you understood what I told. Please subscribe the channel and like the video, and thanks for watching.